Hello and welcome to Commanding on a Budget. Our budget pick for this episode is Archon of Justice. 5 mana is a reasonable amount to pay for a 4/4 flyer, but the Archon will really shine when it dies. Even just one use of that trigger will be helpful, but if you have ways to bring your creatures back, you'll never have to worry about anything. Today we'll be taking a look at a Zirilan of the Claw deck that can be built for about $50. Zirilan allows you to find any dragon in your library and put it onto the battlefield with haste. The drawback to this ability is that it gets exiled at the end of the turn. However, with a little work, you can keep your dragons from leaving the game. Even if you cheat your dragons into play, this deck is very mana hungry, and sometimes you will just have to get your dragons onto the battlefield the old-fashioned way, so having some mana development will be helpful. Astral Cornucopia and Everflowing Chalice can both scale to be either an early game boost or a late game mana dump. Burnished Heart and Wayfarer's Bauble will both help you get more mountains in play. Darksteel Ingot, Fire Diamond, and Heart of Ramos are all cheap sources of colored mana ramp. Hedron Archive is mana when you need it, and cards when you need some gas. Sisay's Ring and Golem's Eye supplement your colorless mana production. Vessel of Endless Rest is both red mana and allows you to recycle a card from your graveyard. There are some utility dragons, but for the most part, when you play dragons, you want big, nasty beaters. These guys have your back. Spawn of Thraxes. Considering you're playing mono red, this guy should do a lot of damage when he enters the battlefield. Akum Hellkite. Remember all those mountains we talked about you having in play? Well, as you play them, this guy will turn them into shocks. Shivan Dragon. Sure, this guy is nothing fancy, but fat fire-breathing flyers still win games. Scourge of Valkis. Suddenly, every dragon you play will turn into even more damage. Rorik's Bladewing. He's hasty and legendary, and he will deal some damage. Molten Steel Dragon. Just like Shivan Dragon, this guy is a plain Jane fire breather, but one that can come down on turn 4 and let you sink any excess life into eliminating your foes. Hellkite Igniter. This deck plays a lot of artifacts, so why not take advantage of them with this guy? Forge Stoker Dragon has an ability that can either pick off 1 toughness creatures or keep your opponent's big blockers from getting in your way. Flame Blast Dragon. We like to say that dragons fire breathe when they get +1/+0, but this guy shows us true firepower by shooting a fireball at your opponent or one of their creatures to do a ton of damage. Dragon Tyrant. 10 mana and an upkeep cost of 4 red is a lot to pay, but when you get a double-striking trampling monstrosity, it's a lot easier not to care about little things like mana. Begarden Hellkite. The only thing better than a fatty with flash is one who is also a burn spell when they come into play. Everybody knows that red is way better at damage than draw power, but that doesn't mean you can't add a little boost to your card advantage. Nullspine Dragon lets you turn the enormous damage output of your dragons into more cards, and therefore, more dragons. Mad Prophet. This cheap, hasty guy will let you dig through the cards in your deck to find what you need. Temple Bell and Staff of Nin are colorless sources that let you draw cards every turn. Temple Bell may benefit everyone, but you can choose when to activate it. Dragons are pretty scary beaters, but with some work we can make the damage output of this deck truly terrifying. Hellkite Charger. Multiple attack phases with fire-breathing, scaly flying things. Your opponents will be having nightmares about it. Moonveil Dragon. Even though many of your creatures can use red mana to pump themselves, this dragon allows you to do so for every creature you control. Ogre Battle Driver, Hammer of Perforos, and Dragon Tempest. If your dragons have haste, that is one more turn they can be doing damage. Dictate of the Twin Gods. Sure, you'll be taking double damage too, but playing with fire is sort of a requirement of loving dragons. Warstorm Surge. So many creatures with really high power means a lot of damage. As promised, we have no intention of exiling any of the dragons that are tutored up with Zirilan. In order to accomplish this, they need to leave the battlefield at least momentarily before your instep. Tel-Jalad's Stylus lets you put a dragon on the battlefield on the bottom of your library so you can search it up again. Trading Post will allow you to sacrifice your dragons in addition to allowing you to recur artifacts. Rito Lantern and Elixir of Immortality allow you to put dragons that have ended up in your graveyard back into your library for reuse. Conjurer's Closet will let you flicker your dragons so that they come back as a different creature, so there is no need to exile them. Not to mention extra Scourge of Valkis triggers are sweet. Carnage Altar lets you keep your dragons from getting exiled for the awful price of drawing a card. Swift Foot Boots lets you protect your commander and use his ability as soon as possible. Artisan of Kozilek can reanimate those dragons you had to sacrifice or lost to a board wipe. Orbs of Warding. With so many awesome fatties, targeted sacrifice is awful. This artifact will stop both that and slow down the amount of damage you take. Hoarding Dragon. With so many artifacts that are vital to the deck, it's nice to have a way to search them up. A dragon-shaped way. We have established that dragons are awesome. More dragons are better. So of course, stupid amounts of dragons is what we're shooting for. Dragon Lord's Servant makes your flying friends a tad cheaper. Utvara Hellkite. Dragons deal damage. Get more dragons. More dragons do more damage. Rinse and repeat. Twin Flame and Flame Shadow Conjuring give you some temporary token copies of your dragons. Why? Do you need an excuse for more dragons? Belb's Portal lets you drop dragons into play on the cheap while also playing around counter magic. Dragon Roost. 7 mana is a lot to pay for a 5/5 flyer, but that's because you can activate this as many times as you want to get crazy amounts of dragons. Sarkon's Triumph and Dragonstorm let you tutor up the dragons you need in case your general is too expensive to cast. When you have a deck with a ton of dragons, there is nothing to do but melt or blow up everything that isn't yours. Horde Smelter Dragon becomes more powerful when he destroys your opponent's prized treasures. Scourge of Care Ridges can clear the ground or the skies, letting you breathe a little easier. Steel Hellkite. Science Dragon is a pro field wrecker, making your opponents worry they'll lose their best permanents anytime he hits the board. Shattering Pulse and Vandal Blast are non-dragon ways to take care of pesky artifacts. Aftershock is one of the few red creature removal spells, making it worth the damage. Blasphemous Act. If your opponents like playing a ton of creatures, this spell will help you clear their boards on the cheap. Shock Maw Dragon can easily wipe out 1/1 token armies. The deck's lands. Crucible of the Spirit Dragon and 38 Mountains. The non-budget acquisitions. Balefire Dragon and Thundermaw Hellkite can help clear your opponent's boards to make room for your dragons to get through. Dragon Mage. Like Nullspine Dragon, this guy can refill your hand very easily. Dragon Whisperer and Dragon Master Outcast can give you tons of dragon tokens. Dragon Speaker Shaman will make your dragons even cheaper. Haven of the Spirit Dragon helps you recur your dragons even more. Mana Charge Dragon and Scourge of the Throne are scary beaters that could replace some of the less amazing dragons currently in the deck. Stormbreath Dragon punishes all those blue players for drawing cards. Mirren the Moaning Well and High Market are ways to sacrifice your dragons without spending a card slot. You should build this deck if you like dragons and their artifact treasures. You like decks with a straightforward game plan. You like decks that play the same way every game. You like decks that rely heavily on their commander. This Zirilan deck takes the normal damage-based game plan of dragons and gives it a little more reliability and tricks. I've personally played a non-budget Zirilan and I loved the deck, but took it apart because it did the same thing every game. What deck did you take apart because the magic faded? Let me know in the comments section below, and as always, thanks for watching.